Fan 007. What up? You good? I'm alive, I'm breathing. Drop this shit. What up, nigga? Drop this shit. What up, nigga? Fucking head, man.
Angry Fan Movement is the movement to move with. URL TV for life. You already know what it is.
Jen, what's goody?
Cass, what's up? What's up, everybody? How y'all doing?
What's going on, Jen?
It's Wing, right? And we got Wing on?
Yes.
Yes, winged. Yes.
How you doing? How are you? And then I think I heard a third voice. Is it someone else?
Yeah, the blueprint.
Yo, how you doing, bro? Nice to meet
I'm
everybody.
good, bro.
Man.
How you?
I'm all right.
Good.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys for having me. I know, like, I ain't gonna front. Like, I listen often, but the presence of what you guys are doing is definitely felt. And I know that, you know, like, you guys are all about just not only just promoting and keeping, you know, the dialogue alive about, you know, battling, but I know you guys are all like aficionados and fans, and I really appreciate that.
So that
man, salute, bro. We appreciate you, man. Word.
Definitely.
So I'm gonna have you up there, bro. What's up with you, man?
I'm good, man. You know, I could get into this whole long spiel about it, but, you know, I think just to summarize it all, for a lot of the listeners out there, I mean, I don't even want to go and assume that everybody listening knows me or has heard of me. So, I mean, I'll give it like a short summary. I mean, you know, I was doing the battling thing like way back. I'd say when I was the most active was probably like 2000, like early 2000s. And then I think coming off the 106 in Park, which is, I guess, where most people know me from, I ended up signing with, I'm giving like a recap right now just because I feel like I don't want to assume everybody listening knows who I am, all right? But
I should do it anyway.
Yeah, well, you know,
we know.
Friday, which was, coming off the Freestyle Friday, which was back in '02, ended up signing with the R, and then, man, that was like a dream come true. I mean, I don't know how else to describe it. It was an amazing experience. I ended up rocking with them for like about 4 or 5 years until about '06, which is when I parted ways with the label. And then from there, I kind of, you know, got on the independent tip, still doing music, and then went over to China in 2008 and ended up staying for like a good 4 or 5 years, and then moved back 2012 roughly. So spending most of my time here now. Now, all of that, you know, okay, well, why, you know, what does all of that have to do with, you know, right now and battling? I mean, in the course of all that, outside of the Freestyle Friday stuff, I think most people, you know, remember me from a few battles in terms of like, I did like a Smack DVD at one point, and then doing the Fight Club joints, and just really rooted in the whole battling history. And, yo, I just want to say to those that are listening, that have been rocking with me for all these years, like, man, I truly, truly appreciate it. And it's definitely encouraging and humbling, you know, because I think as a whole, my career has definitely taken a lot of twists and turns. And you can ask 10 different people, and 10 different people might tell you 10 different things in terms of how they see my career, right? Some people might see it as, nah, yo, you know, Jin has cemented himself. Or the next person might be like, yo, I've never even heard of him, right? Or you might get someone who's like, yeah, you know, he took a couple L's here and there and, you know, whatever. So all in all, I'm grateful to be part of the conversation still, like to this day. Even though, I mean, I personally feel I'm probably as far removed from, as far as like actively battling, like I'm pretty far removed from it, which is why whenever someone's still like, yo, when you jumping back in the ring, like that question alone always, it just humbles me, and it's something that I don't take, you know, for granted, or do I take lightly?
Oh, well, damn, that was about to be my question.
Yeah. Well, how do you want to approach the question? Go for it.
All right, I'm going to ask you a question. Do you follow battle rap currently?
Yo, I think I follow it more than people realize, and yeah, I mean, and for what it's worth, I don't see why not. I mean, I think this is the thing I'm learning about myself, and I'm glad I get to share it with you guys and anybody listening on this platform. Is even as I get older, and as I just said a moment ago, how I feel maybe my personal involvement and connection with battling as a participant, even though it has grown kind of distant, simultaneously, yo, this is a beautiful thing. I'm realizing what a big fan and student of the culture and of the art form itself I am. Like, for real. Like, you know, your simple question of, yo, do you follow it? this is why I say, like, it's kind of a learning experience for myself, because as I'm following it, I'm realizing, like, I mean, it's borderline addiction even, you know what I mean? Like, I love watching it, you know, and I watch it from several, I think nowadays I watch it from several perspectives. I watch it as a student. I watch it as a fan. You know, like, sometimes I'll be watching and I'll be so caught up in the performance, the angles, the delivery, whatever, all the different components, right, that I forget, wait a minute, I do this too, right? But then I used to do it, you know what I mean? But then, like, sometimes I do find myself watching from the student standpoint where, like, yo, while the MC, whoever it may be, whether it be someone like a DNA or someone like a Roan or whoever, like, I mean, yeah, I'm pretty deep in it in terms of, like, as a avid follower and watcher. But, like, yo, I find myself really dissecting not just the lines, but, man, all type of stuff, like how they decided to approach the battle. And I'm not going to say I know all of the backstory to all of the, because that's what I'm noticing a lot about the battles now with the different leagues and just a variety of things happening is, and this is not a good or a bad thing, but sometimes where it gets tricky for, like, someone who's just diving in to watch a battle, right, for the very first time, and they're interested with what this world is, you know, sometimes the references, they get so specific, right? You know, like someone, you know, Swave may be like, yo, and when you battled, you know, X Factor, round 2, 1 minute 47 seconds, and then they break it down. They may not be able to pick up that angle or that punchline, but, like, for me, like, I feel I do watch it enough to where, you know, when Suge says something about, you know, the saga from a previous battle, I can connect with it there. So those are those moments where I'll be, like, on my student tip, where I'm like, okay, you know, I see the approach, I see the angle. But all in all, man, just to summarize it, I definitely watch and follow. And, man, I'm a fan of so many of them, like so many of these guys, yo. Like, it'd be hard to even kind of, like, compile a list for you, because I just realized I love individually for what they all bring to the table uniquely. I love so many of what they do, so many of these guys and what they do.
Yeah, you know what? That's real. What you said. You kind of do got to follow the battles, so because a lot of them are references to previous battles.
Bingo.
Go ahead, what you going to say?
I was actually going to say that, but what I wanted to know, Jen, from, like you said, you are somebody who, I mean, I feel like you're in that conversation because you inspired a lot of people to do this too. So that's you're very humble and basically. You feel me? So it's like that's why you stay in these conversations. But since you are like us and junkie, when it comes to the battles, what do you see that's different? Like what's the differences that you're actually seeing from then and now? What's evolved? Even what's bad about it?
Yo, that question is dope. You might have just 3-0'd me with that question right there. That's a dope question. The word the term that you use, junkie, I totally would classify myself as one. I am a self-admitted and proud junkie. Just because, I mean, I think no matter how uninvolved I am in terms of participating, this is the other thing that I realized is that I can never deny what a big part of my life was dedicated to battling. And I don't even necessarily mean just to try to use it as a way to come up and get a deal, but I'm talking about the actual culture of it, the sport of it, the art of it. Like, so much of my life was aligned with it. And now, no matter how I slice the dice, it still is. You know what I mean? Because of what you just described, which is, people, the first thing they think of Jen, it might not be, signing with Rough Riders. It might not be hit records, but it's like, okay, well, once upon a time, we knew him as a beast, right? And some people still see me as, he can come back any moment and slay it. And and that's a whole nother, discussion. But to answer your question, I mean, probably the biggest switch in terms of my observations would be, I think a lot of people have this complaint, like the purists who feel like, it's not what it used to be because it's all about, the pre-written now, right? Like, meaning they'll describe, Pat Stay knows he's battling Hollow 3 months from now, right? So that means essentially they got 3 months to put the angles together, to research, and do all this stuff. Now, in one sense where I get why people have that complaint, where it's like it loses kind of the spontaneity of it. I get it. I think that at the same time, it does have an effect where it does elevate the art form in some way because of the fact that everybody knows, yo, you had 3 months to piece your rounds together. It just sets the bar so high. And I think that's the thing. Like, the bar is at an all-time high now. Yeah, I mean, because you can't, there's no way, shape, or form that you could come with anything subpar if everybody knows that, they announced this battle 5 months ago. And what have you been doing in these last 5 months, right? Which is why from that first moment when any match starts now, whether it's a KOTD joint, a URL joint, whatever, people are hanging on to specifically the first 20 to 30 seconds of every MC's round, because it's like, okay, we've all been anticipating this for 6 months now. Some matches even longer, right? Because everybody's been anticipating it. And in that sense, I think it does elevate the game in a way, in terms of, you just have to be so much more sharp with your pen. And I think that's the main point, is that, you have guys that do still utilize, like, the rebuttals and going off the top. You got guys like, whether it's Diz or whether it's DNA or Hollow or Roan, or a lot of guys do it actually, where they kind of weave back and forth between the writtens and the off the top. Obviously, the guys that do it seamlessly, those are the real, that they separate themselves from everybody else. Those guys are dangerous too. But as dangerous as it is, sometimes it may end up. This is why I'm such a nerd and a junkie, right? As dangerous as that is, you see that sometimes being the Achilles heel for that guy too, because the other guy is coming with something that's so structured, right? And it's so sharp that to the viewer at home, now there's other debate of like, he bodied him in the building, but on cam it might be 2-1. You know what I mean? Or something like that. You know what I mean? So that's a whole nother factor that I don't think we used to. And when I say we, I include you guys, because I'm sure you guys have been watching battling and following it for a long time. But I think once upon a time, these weren't things that were even part of the discussion, which is, he won in the building, but, we'll see the footage, and it might be the other way around, or it might be 2-1 or something like that. And I'm not saying that any of this is good or bad. I'm just saying that, to answer what you asked, these are the things that I observed that are probably the biggest kind of evolutionary aspects. Yeah.
All right. Hey, Jen, I got a question I always wanted to know, right?
Yes, please do.
Have you ever battled Cassidy on the low? I remember this one freestyle with you and Cass on.
That freestyle, okay.
You kind of came at him on that freestyle on the low.
Nah, you know what that was? That was one of those scenarios. It was a monumental experience for me. That was when, like, I think the label, Swiss was there. This is when I was still on the R, naturally. And I think Cass was still on Full Surface with Swiss. And, and obviously Swiss is forever tied with Rough Riders. And, for real, like, that whole thing that people always see them as, like, the whole family vibe, I mean, that's, like, real. Like, I mean, it's not marketing. It's not anything. It's really a legit family environment over there, right? So that thing you're talking about was one time where I think we went up to Hot 97, right? And I think Drag was there. And me, I was geeked. I was just like, this is the stuff you dream about, right? Going up to Hot 97 with the rest of the crew. And then, the DJ throws on the beats and everybody just blacking out. So, I mean, to answer your question, I didn't look at it as a battle per se. But, of course, I'm sure every single MC, whether it was Cass, whether it was Drag, and I think there was like 2 or 3 other dudes up there, too. Everyone, as they was getting ready to approach the mic, I'm sure, naturally, in your heart and in your mind, it's like, I'm a bury this mic, right? Like, worse than everybody else. So from there, it may come, of course, like we coming at each other, but I mean, I don't think it should be seen as a conventional battle. But to answer your question, nah, like on some, is there like a battle that y'all did that the world never knew about or never saw? Nah, we never went at it like that. Like, it was never like everybody standing around and it's like, all right, Jen, go, all right, Cash, go. I mean, now, mind you, there was definitely a lot of scenarios of that, what was the studio called? Powerhouse. That's basically the Rough Rider studio up in YO in Yonkers. There was definitely countless amounts of times where it'll be just any given day at the studio. Like, I'll be in there, like, just on my, studio rat vibe. Like, I'm just living there, really, right? And rappers would just be coming in and out of there. Like, and sometimes it'll be organized and orchestrated by DNY. You know, so DNY are essentially the two older brothers, you know, that kind of oversee Rough Riders. Yo, salute to them, because the years that I was with the Double R, they did nothing but just kind of like encourage, lift me up, you know, and point me in a way that I think they didn't have to, in terms of like, they could have just been like, yo, he's an artist and that's it. But I definitely think they went above and beyond in making sure that I picked up on things beyond just like the music industry stuff. You know what I mean? Like life stuff, you know? But a lot of times, sometimes they would set it up where they knew that us guys was at the studios, right? Like me, other artists or whatever. And then they'll just have, they'll have hungry dudes, like, you know, wolves, so to speak. They'll have wolves come up to the studio with one purpose only, and that was the battle. And in those scenarios, it would be like, 10, 15 dudes just in like a little lobby area where there's like a pool table, and it's just like a Royal Rumble, and the whole purpose of it, and this is part of that whole Rough Rider culture and history. I mean, like, I probably didn't even see it as intense as like Drag or Kiss and X and them saw it, you know what I mean? But there's definitely more times that I can count where dudes would just come up, or you might have like the local dude from the BX or wherever who's mad nice. So his manager is like, we going to go up to, you know, Powerhouse Studios, and, we going to have you battle Jen. And, those, I lost count, like, early on, like, how many times those happened. And it was fun. I mean, I look back on it, and, it was intense, and the tension was thick always in the room. Because it's, you know, for me at that point, I mean, it was a lot on the line. Not in the sense of like, this could go viral, and, you know, because at that point it wasn't like it was going to get captured. It wasn't like that yet, where, you know, like it was all of, you know, nowadays it's all about, capturing it, throwing it on IG or whatever the case may be. But back then, what was on the line, this is kind of interesting, was just at that moment. It wasn't even about, potentially the world seeing it. It was about those 13 people in that room. You know what I mean? And it was like, there's no way I'm going to let this guy, like, outrhyme me, outbar me, whatever the term is, right? So there was a whole, like, level of hunger and kind of, like, fire that and this is why, like, you know, like I mentioned it right when we started the call, but the question that I do get asked often and repeatedly, when you jumping back in the ring, Jen? And the answer, you know, the short version of it is, I just feel like that thing that I'm describing, until I feel it again, I wouldn't want to do it. Because I know that, like, these guys, any one of these guys right now, when they jumping into that ring, is with that. You know what I mean? And until I feel like I've harnessed it back, or I might wake up one morning, I just be like, oh, whoa, like I don't know where it came from, but it's back. All right, you know, let me send Beasley a text, or, you know, let me send Organic a DM, and, you know, before we know, I'm talking sideways right now. I might come back and be like, I need to start at the Proving Grounds. Who knows? I may say
oh,
that,
wow.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, just because, like, and I made that statement, and I've made it several times. Sometimes I say it jokingly, and people be like, nah, Jen, why would you start back at the Proving Grounds? But the reason I specifically, you know, would reference it like that is just because, I don't know, like, I'm very aware that it is in a place right now that it wasn't at when I stepped away from it. Does that make sense?
Right.
Okay, that makes sense.
Definitely.
Yeah, so that's about it. But
hey, Jen,
that's
how you feel
go ahead, Caps.
Go ahead, bro.
No, I was just going to piggyback off of that, because, you know, I've said that, and I believe, you know, a lot of us said that, Cap Swing included, that maybe a lot of these quote-unquote celebrity battle rappers come back.
right.
Maybe they should take a PG or a warm-up battle before stepping, you know what I mean, onto a big stage.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't like, you know, just to piggyback off of your piggyback pause. I mean, I don't knock anybody's decision, right? So whether we're talking about, you know, we don't gotta be like, you know, we don't need to subtweet, I guess, right? So whether we're talking about Cass as in Cassidy, so whether it's, you know, Cass's decision to jump right back in with this, or whether it was even Buttons, right? Buttons who jumped in and with Hollow, right? I mean, I think they made those decisions very consciously, and I don't specifically with these two individuals, I don't think there was any miscalculation, and I'm sure they were like 1,000% in and committed when they took those matches and in the manner that they unfolded. But yeah, just to kind of touch on what you just pointed out, I guess it's that whole different strokes for different folks. Like I'm just so aware because I watch so much of it. I watch the PG guys, and I'm like, I'm here talking to people talking about, jump right back in. Who you gonna take, Jen? Daylight, Danny Myers, whoever may be that's currently, considered more of the upper echelon, so to speak. I'm watching the PG battles, and I'm like, time out, this guy right here is a problem too. You see what I'm saying? Like, so I just don't want myself to get fooled into thinking that it's I'm jumping back in. And it's all, it's right where I left it. That's all. I guess I said that earlier, so.
Let me ask you a question real quick, Jen.
Yes.
I wanted to ask you, I wanted to go back and touch on your Serius Jones battle. I wanted to know, how did you feel going into the battle, and how did you feel during and after the battle?
That's a good one. There you go. 3-0'd me again right there with that question. To me it's very beautiful because whereas once upon a time, and this may answer the question as I'm saying this, once upon a time I wouldn't even have wanted to talk about it. Like I might have even avoided this phone call with y'all because I know there's a potential, wait a minute, Angry Fan Radio, all they do is talk battle. Of course they're going to bring up the Serius Jones battle. Once upon a time, I probably would have dodged the whole interview just because I didn't even want to touch on that topic in particular. So that's to say, once upon a time, it weighed very heavy on me. Like it was something that, I guess in a way it was like, I'm trying to forget about this in any fashion that I can. Right? But here we are now, and I'm on the phone with you, and I can peacefully and comfortably say, if you wouldn't have brought it up, I probably would have brought it up, right? Because, dude, I learned so much from that battle, And I'm going to elaborate on it, but, it's exactly what you asked. Like, what were you feeling before it? What were you feeling during it? And what did you feel afterwards? Sometimes even when I share stuff like, share these thoughts with people, I often wonder, man, do they even get what I'm trying to say? Because they're going to be like, it's just a battle, Jen. How why are you making it seem to be more than it is? Or maybe sharing with you guys right here and your listeners, either way I'm going to share it, but I hope it is something that people can see beyond just the surface of it all, right? But, that Serius Jones battle, man, it taught me a lot of things about, life and about myself, And the reason I say that is because that was probably the first real super high-profile battle that I lost. So what I mean by that is it wasn't my first L by no means. But prior to that, maybe the L's that I was catching, right? Like some of them weren't as intense, you know what I mean? And not only that, but they weren't as publicized. I think this might be, the main factor. Like some of the, I've been in like tournament-style battles where I make it to the semifinals and then I get knocked out or whatever. Like talking about like real, I don't even want to term it like this, but like more of the, like those tournaments that they have out in, there's this one called Scribble Jam, right? Like out in Cincinnati, where a lot of the guys now, they ran through that circle too. But I went out there like 1 or 2 years, made it past like the first round, second round, might have caught an L. But because they weren't as prevalent and publicized the way the Serius Jones battle was, I don't think those took as much of a toll on me and just my sanity. What happened with the Serius Jones battle is I think it was like a combined thing. Number one, clear, no debating, he took it. All right, like I'm talking like clearly, like it wasn't like a it might have been this, it might have been that. Clearly, he took it. Combined with the fact that also happened to be the time that Fight Club had partnered up with like MTV2, and they were airing it basically like 8 times a day, and the primary social media that was the most active at that time, and this will tell you, like, it helps you put into perspective the timeline of this all. It was on MySpace. That's where everybody was on at that point. So we're not talking Twitter, we're not talking IG, we're not talking anything except MySpace. And all I remember was they would air it every day, and all I would see on my MySpace timeline and comments and message box and, because I was very active on it. Like, I'm one of those dudes that, for those that have been following me, they know I've been pretty active on on the social media online platform, like message boards, pretty early in the game. Like, even when I was doing the Freestyle Friday, I was already really active on the forums and hitting people back and stuff like that. But what happened was when that battle happened, like, I knew that I caught the L at the battle, right? But then it almost was like I mentioned earlier, like a combined blow to the dome, because not only did I catch the L there, and it was, it was pretty numbing, but then it got captured on film, which I knew they were filming, so none of this should have been a surprise. But then what happened was when it kept airing again and again and again, and then simultaneously I'm logging onto my MySpace daily and torturing myself, reading these joints. I'm reading these comments. I'm reading, and I think the other thing to put into perspective, I'm glad y'all can laugh about it, because I can laugh about it, which is why I'm doing the comedy thing these days. But I'll get into that later. But I was gonna say, at the time, another thing that was, I think I tried to put on a facade, like it wasn't really doing anything to me, but underneath it was, and I think that is what made it a million times worse. You get what I'm saying? So rather than just owning up and being like, yo, this is really affecting me, I continue to front like it wasn't. And because I think one other thing I didn't realize until many years later, like it was only the last 2 to 3 years. I shared about this a little bit when I did a Vlad interview, but it was only in the recent years that I was able to piece together kind of why it rocked me that hard. And this is why I said it was a life lesson, yo. Not only just a simple battle, but a life lesson, is that I think up to that point, I valued and I looked at myself as a person and what I was worth purely off of just Jin the Battler. You get what I'm saying? Meaning like I saw myself as only Jin the Battler in terms of like what I was worth. So I didn't realize it until such a loss like that, and then it being kind of like just broadcasted to the world. And then I'm in denial at the point, but then like in the recent years, I got to see that why it rocked me so hard is because, I couldn't accept that this thing that I saw myself as the most was unraveling in such a way, combined with other things, by that point, I had already parted ways with Rough Riders, right? I mentioned that I parted ways with Rough Riders in like 2006, which is around the time that battle had happened, like a little bit after, which is why, he had like these few lines that, and this is what I always tell people too. A lot of times when I meet people or when I just see comments online, people be like, the ones that really take it to heart, they be like, nah, Jen, you kind of had a disadvantage there, right? And their point is, you're in a room full of black dudes, all Jones is doing is cracking jokes about you being Chinese, and you can't say the same thing back about him. And I end up getting into these little mini debates with those people saying, nah, like that's not what it was. And I say that because that wasn't my first time in a scenario like that. You see what I'm saying? So for me, that whole concept of it was a disadvantage, I don't think is applicable at all. And if anything, like he was on. Like to me, what happened that night was a prime example of when someone's on, like meaning they just on, and they're going up against someone who's not. And I don't mean on as a sign, but I mean like on their game, like on their A game. Because that night, man, and Serius's whole style for the most part, he's still very active now, and he's taken a few battles in the last year or two. But even if you look at that era of Serius Jones and this era of Serius Jones, it's still relatively within a same frame. I think he's actually gotten a little more aggressive in these recent years because I think that's just naturally adapting to what's going on. But for the most part, if you had to generally describe his style, it's very conversational. It's very, jokes and not necessarily complex wordplay, but, his demeanor is what kills you, you know what I mean? So how he got me at that was, I gotta say it seemed effortless. You know what I'm saying? Like he could have said anything and the crowd was rocking with him. And that's what I mean about him being on. So this is not to like belittle his victory. I'm just saying that this is one of those kind of very, like abstract magical things about battling. Sometimes it is about whose wordplay is nicest. and sometimes it's just about who captures the crowd. You know what I'm saying? Because, you know, the stuff that he was saying, you know, was like, it wasn't stuff that I hadn't heard before. Like, for example, when he's like, yo, I know why you got dropped from Rough Riders, because, you know, they caught you eating one of X's dogs, right? And, you know, he said it in a rhyme form, and it was funny and creative. But, yo, it worked with the crowd. It connected with the crowd. And this is where I, you know, was at a misstep. Like, I let it get to me, yo. So your question, Blue, about what was going on in your mind during the battle. And any moment right now, when this interview's done, people can go back and pull it up on the tube. The beauty of YouTube, right? And you'll see, like, I can't even hide it visually on camera. Like, you can look at my face and be like, yo, this is really getting the gin. And that's where I unraveled. But to my credit, because I came up from that school of, yo, no matter what, just keep going, right? So for most of I think we went like 3 rounds. So by like either the second or the third round, what I ended up doing was just, you know, during my rounds, I'm still going off the top, but I'm just like all over the place. I'm rhyming, you know, like there's nothing that's really landing. There's nothing that's really like countering what he's saying. You know what I mean? Yo, and that's why I get into these mini debates with people when they be like, nah, yo, he cheated. That's the thing that always I right away, I put a halt to that right away. Because I don't want to ever let it come across like I feel that way, which I don't at all, especially now. You know what I mean? But, yo, definitely learned. And the beauty is, like I said, being able to lift my head up and just say, yo, I caught that mean L there. You know what I mean? And just for me to verbally say that is what's the biggest breakthrough on a personal note. And I don't know how this will come across to you guys or even to the listeners, but I tell you one thing, for many years, that was the hardest thing to overcome. It wasn't actually catching the L. You get what I'm saying? It was me just being able to lift my head up and admit that, yo, I caught that L, right? And especially in public. Because like I said, for the initial days and for a long time, I was just trying to put up this front. And then, I tried to get a rematch with him, you know, on a lighter note, like not in recent years, but meaning like after it happened. I think he was in the first 2 to 3 months after the battle went down. I was almost like on a mission to get a rematch with him. To the point where there's actually this clip on YouTube where I'm at SOB's and he's performing. And me and my manager, so the two of us, we show up. And it wasn't on and I know he knows, and I know probably everybody there knew, it definitely wasn't on anything outside of just the MC, hip-hop side of things, you know what I'm saying? Because it was just me, right? Like, one little Chinese dude, and then I had my manager with me. But we show up at his thing, and I walk up to the stage, and here's the funny thing. Of course, you know, without a doubt, every single person in the room, they want to see a rematch. You know, that's just because spectators, they love watching, you know, like we as people, we love watching car crashes, right? As sick as that is, right? But they just like, yeah, give them the rematch, right? But it ended pretty abruptly. Like, I think like they asked me to leave. Like, I'm not saying Jones asked me to leave. I think the organizers and the security at that place was just like, yo, this is not the time or the place for it. So then I bounced, and then from that moment on, I kind of let the whole I need a rematch thing go already. Yeah, so that's the story of the Serius Jones battle.
Nigga fan 007. What up? You good? I'm alive, I'm breathing. Drop this shit. What up, nigga? Drop this shit. What up, nigga? Fucking heads, man.
And you fan movement is the movement to move with.